I watched my husband Leonard's face turn red as his lawyer whispered something urgent in his ear. We were sitting in that cold conference room, divorce papers spread across the mahogany table like a bad hand of cards. Leon thought he was about to walk away with $4.5 million of my inheritance. His lawyer had even brought champagne for after the meeting. I could see it sitting there in an ice bucket by the window, all confident and cocky. But my lawyer, Marshall Gideon, just smiled that slow, knowing smile of his and slid a folder across the table. "I think you'll want to review these documents," Marshall said, his voice calm as Sunday morning. Leon's lawyer, a sharp-dressed white man named Hutchins, opened the folder. I watched the color drain from his face like someone pulled a plug. His hands started shaking. Actually shaking. "What is this?" Hutchins stammered. "That," Marshall said, leaning back in his chair, "is proof that Mrs. Vivian Hayes moved her inheritance into an irrevocable offshore trust 3 months before your client filed for divorce. The inheritance was never marital property. It was received as a sole beneficiary, and it was protected before it ever touched a joint account." Leon stood up so fast his chair fell backward. "You can't do that! That's my money, too! We've been married 30 years! "Sit down, Mr. Hayes," Marshall said, still calm. "Your wife can do exactly that." And she did. I didn't say a word. I just watched Leon's dream of easy millions crumble right there in front of me. His face went from red to purple. The champagne sat there, getting warm, going flat, just like his plans. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how we got here. Before we continue, please drop a comment if you've ever experienced something like this. We'd love to hear your story, and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. 30 years. That's how long I gave Leonard Hayes. 30 years of cooking his favorite meals, pressing his shirts, raising our 3 children, and standing by his side through every up and down. We met at a church picnic back in 1995. I was 32, he was 35, and he had this smile that could light up a room. He worked as an electrician. I was a teacher's aide at the elementary school. We weren't rich, but we were happy. Or at least I thought we were. Leon always had big dreams. He talked about starting his own electrical business, buying rental properties, building an empire. But talk was all it ever was. Every time we saved up a little money, something would happen. His truck would need repairs. His mother would need help with her bills. His brother would need a loan that never got paid back. I didn't mind at first. That's what family does, right? You help each other. I taught at Oakwood Elementary for 28 years. Every morning, I'd wake up at 5:30 to make Leon breakfast before he left for work. Eggs, turkey sausage, grits, toast. Sometimes I'd make him a special lunch if he was working a big job. Our children, Keisha, Dante, and Nicole, they all grew up good, went to college, got decent jobs, started their own families. I was proud of what we built together. My mama, God rest her soul, always told me, "Vivian, you got a good heart, baby. But don't let people take advantage of that good heart." She passed when I was 45, and even though she didn't have much, she left me her house in South Carolina. A little 2-bedroom place near Charleston. Leon wanted to sell it right away, use the money for his business ideas. But something in me said no. I kept that house, rented it out, used the money to help with the grandkids' school clothes and birthday presents. Everything changed last March. That's when my Aunt Claudette died. Aunt Claudette was my mama's older sister, and she was something else. Never married, no children, worked as a nurse for 40 years, and invested every spare penny she had. She lived in a modest apartment in Atlanta, drove a 15-year-old Toyota, clipped coupons like her life depended on it. We all thought she was just getting by. She'd come visit once a year, always at Thanksgiving, bringing sweet potato pies and telling stories about the old days. When her lawyer called me, I thought maybe she'd left me some jewelry, or maybe a few $1,000s. I flew down to Atlanta for the reading of the will, and that's when my whole world shifted. $9 million. Aunt Claudette had $9 million in stocks, bonds, and real estate investments, and she left every single penny to me, not to be split among relatives, just to me. Her favorite niece, she wrote in the will, the one who always made time to call, who remembered her birthday, who visited when no one else did. I sat in that lawyer's office in downtown Atlanta, in a high-rise building that overlooked the city, and I couldn't breathe. $9 million. I kept waiting for someone to say it was a mistake, that they'd read the wrong number, but they didn't. It was real. The lawyer, a black woman named Patricia Monroe, walked me through everything. There were properties in 3 states, investment accounts, even some art that Aunt Claudette had collected. Your aunt was a brilliant investor, Patricia said. She started with very little, but she was patient and smart. She wanted you to have security. I flew home to Memphis in a daze. Leon picked me up from the airport and I told him in the car. I'll never forget his reaction. His eyes got so big, I thought they might pop out of his head. $9 million? He kept saying. $9 million, Viv? Yes, I said. I can barely believe it myself. He was quiet for a moment, then he reached over and squeezed my hand. Baby? We're set for life. We can retire, travel, buy that big house you always wanted, get a new car, maybe get a boat. A boat. Leon had mentioned wanting a boat maybe twice in 30 years, and suddenly it was a priority. Looking back now, I can see that's when things started to change. It was subtle at first. Little things. Leon started dressing better. New shoes. Designer cologne. He joined a gym, started working out 5 times a week. He said he wanted to be healthy for our retirement years. I thought that was sweet. I was proud of him for taking care of himself. He started working late more often. His phone was suddenly always face down on the table. He put a passcode on it, said it was for security. When I asked him to help me figure out how to set up online banking for the inheritance account, he got snappy with me. Said I should learn to do things myself, that I was too dependent. Me. Too dependent. After 30 years of managing our household, raising our children, working full-time, and keeping everything together, the inheritance money sat in a temporary account for weeks while I figured out what to do with it. Patricia, the lawyer in Atlanta, had set it up so it would transfer cleanly. She'd warned me about something, but at the time I didn't really understand what she meant. Mrs. Hayes, she'd said, I'm telling you this as someone who's seen a lot of inheritance cases. You need to be very careful about keeping these funds separate from marital assets. If you want this money to remain yours alone, don't mix it with joint accounts. Don't use it to pay joint bills. Keep it completely separate and document everything. I'd nodded, but I hadn't really heard her. I trusted Leon. We were married. We were a team. Why would I need to protect money from my own husband? But then came the night that changed everything. It was a Saturday in June. We were supposed to go to our grandson Tyler's baseball game. Leon had promised he'd be there. I made chicken salad sandwiches, packed a cooler, put on my Oakwood Elementary baseball cap that I wore to all the grandkids' games. Leon came out of the bedroom in new jeans and a button-up shirt I'd never seen before. He smelled like he'd bathed in cologne. You ready? I asked. Oh, about that, he said, not quite meeting my eyes. I can't make it to the game. Something came up. Something came up? Leon, you promised Tyler. I know, but this is important. Work thing. Big client. On a Saturday? Yeah. You know how it is. But I didn't know. Because in 28 years of Leon being an electrician, he'd never had a work emergency that required designer cologne. I went to the game alone, sat in the bleachers next to Keisha, our oldest daughter, and watched Tyler hit a double. The whole time my mind was spinning. I pulled out my phone and did something I'd never done before. I checked our cell phone account, looked at Leon's call log. There was one number that appeared over and over, dozens of calls. Some lasting an hour or more, late-night calls, early morning calls. My hands shook as I clicked on the number and hit call before I could talk myself out of it. A woman answered. Young voice. Cheerful. "Hey, baby," she said. "I thought you were coming over it too." I hung up. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might have a heart attack right there in the bleachers. "Mama, you okay?" Keisha asked. "You look pale." "I'm fine," I lied. "Just the heat." But I wasn't fine. I knew right then that my marriage was over. I just didn't know yet that Leon had already decided that for me, and that he was just waiting for the perfect time to strike. That perfect time, I would learn, was when he thought he could take half of my inheritance. After the baseball game, I drove around for 2 hours. I couldn't go home. I couldn't face Leon. I ended up at my best friend Geneva's house. Geneva and I had known each other since we were both young teachers at Oakwood. She'd retired a few years before me, and she always told it like it was. I told her everything. The phone calls, the woman's voice, the way Leon had been acting. Geneva just shook her head. "How long you gonna let that man play you, Viv?" "What should I do?" "You need to talk to a lawyer, not about the woman, about that money. You need to protect yourself." "But we're married. What's mine is his, right?" "Not if it's an inheritance, honey. Not if you're smart about it." That Monday, I made an appointment with Marshall Gideon. He came highly recommended, had handled Geneva's sister's divorce, and supposedly didn't play games. Marshall's office was in a historic building downtown, all exposed brick and high ceilings. He was a tall black man, maybe 55, with gray temples and sharp eyes that didn't miss anything. I told him everything. About the inheritance. About Leon's changed behavior. About the phone calls. Marshall listened without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back in his leather chair and steepled his fingers. "Mrs. Hayes, I'm going to be direct with you. I think your husband is planning to divorce you, and I think he's waiting until he believes he can claim half of your inheritance." My stomach dropped. "How do you know?" "Because I've seen this exact scenario 40 times. Inheritance comes in, spouse starts acting distant, then files for divorce claiming the inheritance is marital property. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. It depends on how the money was handled." "What should I do?" "We need to move that money. Now. Today. We need to put it somewhere he can't touch it, can't claim it, can't even prove exists until it's too late for him to do anything about it." "Is that legal?" "Completely. The inheritance was left to you as an individual. It's not marital property unless you commingle it with marital assets. We're going to make sure that never happens. We're going to set up an irrevocable trust, offshore where it's protected, with you as the sole beneficiary. Your husband will never have a legal claim to a single penny." I sat there in Marshall's office, surrounded by law books and framed degrees, and I realized something. I'd spent 30 years being soft, being kind, being the peacemaker. And Leon had taken that softness and decided to betray me for money. "Do it," I said. "Protect my money." And that's exactly what Marshall did. Over the next 3 weeks, working quickly and quietly, Marshall set up an offshore trust in the Cook Islands. He moved every penny of the inheritance, documented everything, made sure it was ironclad. The trust was legal, legitimate, and completely protected. I was the only beneficiary. Leon's name was nowhere on any document. And then I waited. I went home every day and pretended everything was normal. I cooked dinner. I watched TV with Leon. I smiled when I needed to smile. But inside, I was different. I was ready. 3 months after I met with Marshall, Leon finally made his move. It was a Tuesday evening in September. I remember because we were supposed to go to church Bible study. I'd made my famous 7-layer dip to bring for the fellowship afterwards. It was sitting on the counter, wrapped in plastic wrap. Leon came into the kitchen and just stood there. He had this look on his face, not sad, not apologetic, almost excited. "Viv, we need to talk." I turned off the stove. "About what?" "About us. About our marriage." okay? I'm not happy. Haven't been for a while. I think we've grown apart. I watched him. Waited. I want a divorce. There it was. The words I'd been waiting for. A divorce, I repeated, keeping my voice steady. Yeah, it's better this way. We can both start over. You can keep the house. I'll take my fair share of the assets, and we can both move on. His fair share. He didn't even pretend it was about love or growing apart. It was about the money. It had always been about the money. When did you decide this? I asked. Does it matter? Point is, it's over. I already talked to a lawyer. We can make this easy, split everything 50-50 and be done with it. 50-50. Half of $9 million. $4.5 million that he would take to his new woman, while I was left to start over at 62 years old. I looked at my husband of 30 years, really looked at him, and I saw a stranger. Okay, I said simply. He looked surprised. Okay? Yes. If that's what you want, okay. Oh, well, good. I thought you'd make this difficult. No, I said. I won't make it difficult at all. Leon actually smiled. He had no idea what was coming. The next morning, I got a call from Marshall. He's filed, Marshall said. His lawyer is Hutchins and Associates. They're already posturing for a big settlement. They've requested documentation of all assets, including your inheritance. What do we do? We wait for them to make their demands, let them show their hand, then we show them ours. 2 weeks later, we all met in that conference room. Leon, his lawyer, me, and Marshall. And that's where Leon's whole world fell apart. Right there over that mahogany table, with his celebration champagne going flat in the ice bucket. You can't do this! Leon was shouting now, his face twisted with rage. That money is mine, too! Marshall calmly presented document after document. The trust papers, the transfer records, the date stamps showing everything was moved before divorce proceedings began. The inheritance was separate property, properly protected, and legally untouchable. Hutchins looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. Mr. Hayes, he said quietly, we need to talk. In private. But Leon wasn't done. He turned to me, his eyes full of hate. You knew this whole time I was planning to leave. Yes, I said, finally speaking. I knew. You manipulative. I protected myself, I said, my voice clear and strong. Like I should have done years ago. After everything I've done for you. Everything you've done? Leon, I cooked your meals for 30 years. I raised your children. I supported every dream you never followed through on. I stood by you when you helped your family with money we didn't have. And the minute I got something of my own, you decided to leave me and take half of it. He had nothing to say to that. Marshall stood up. Gentlemen, I think we're done here. Mr. Hayes is entitled to his portion of marital assets accumulated during the marriage. The house, the joint accounts, his pension, Mrs. Hayes's pension. We'll work out an equitable division, but the inheritance is off the table, period. I watched Leon storm out of that conference room, his lawyer trailing behind him like a whipped dog. The champagne sat there, warm and forgotten. How do you feel? Marshall asked me when we were alone. Free, I said, and I meant it, but the story was far from over. Because when Leon realized he wasn't getting millions, he decided if he couldn't have the money, he'd destroy me trying to get it. The first attack came through our children. Leon called Keisha first, our oldest daughter, always the peacemaker, always trying to make everyone happy. She called me 2 days after the conference room meeting, her voice tight with worry. Mama, Daddy told me what happened. He said you hid money from him. Money that's supposed to be for the family. I was sitting in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd cooked thousands of meals for this family, and I felt my heart crack a little. Baby, that's not what happened. He's crying, Mama. I've never seen Daddy cry like this. He said you changed, that you became cold and greedy after you got that inheritance. He said he just wants what's fair. Keisha, did he tell you he was cheating on me? Silence. Long, heavy silence. What? Did he tell you there's another woman? That he's been seeing her for months? That he waited until after I got my inheritance to ask for a divorce so he could take half and give it to her? Mama, no. He wouldn't. He would. And he did. I heard her crying softly on the other end. Keisha always believed the best in people. It was her gift and her curse. I don't know what to believe anymore, she whispered. Baby, you don't have to choose sides. This is between me and your father. But don't let him use you to get to me. But Leon was just getting started. Dante called next. My son, my middle child, the one who looked just like his father and worshipped him growing up. Dante wasn't crying. He was angry. You really did Dad dirty, Ma. Excuse me? You heard me. Man worked his whole life, supported this family, and the minute you get some money, you hide it from him? That's cold. Dante, your father left me. He asked for the divorce. Because you changed. You got that money and started acting different. Started thinking you were better than him. I had to sit down. This was my son. My baby boy who I'd rocked to sleep, who I'd helped with homework, who I'd taught to ride a bike. And he was talking to me like I was a stranger. Your father has been unfaithful, I said quietly. He planned this divorce to get my inheritance. He didn't leave me because I changed. He left me because he wanted my money. That's your side of the story. It's the truth. Whatever, Ma. I'm going to help Dad through this. Somebody needs to be on his side. He hung up. Just like that. 33 years old, and he hung up on his mother. Nicole was the only one who listened. My youngest, my wild child who'd given me gray hairs early, but who had a heart that could see through lies. She came to my house that Sunday after church, found me sitting on the porch with a glass of sweet tea. Mama, she said, sitting down next to me, talk to me. Tell me everything. So I did. I told her about the phone calls, the changed behavior, the woman's voice saying, "Hey, baby," like she owned him. I told her about Marshall's advice, about protecting the inheritance, about Leon's face when he realized the money was gone. Nicole just shook her head. I knew something was off. I saw him at the Cheesecake Factory 2 months ago with some woman, young, pretty. They were holding hands across the table. I confronted him, and he told me it was a client. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe him too, baby. For 30 years I believed everything he told me. Nicole hugged me then, hard and fierce. I'm with you, Mama. Whatever you need. But 1 daughter out of 3 children wasn't enough for Leon. He launched a full campaign. He started showing up at church. My church. The church I'd attended for 25 years, where I sang in the choir, where I helped with Vacation Bible School, where I was on the hospitality committee. Leon had barely come to service twice a year, always said he was too tired, always had something else to do. But suddenly, there he was every Sunday, sitting in the 3rd pew, looking sad and broken. People started whispering. Sister Carmichael, who I thought was my friend, stopped me after service one Wednesday. Vivian, we need to talk about what you're doing to that man. Excuse me? Leon, he's suffering. He told Pastor Reynolds that you're keeping money from him. Money that belongs to both of you. That's not Christian, Vivian. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell her that Leon was playing everyone, that he was a liar and a cheat. But I'd learned from Marshall that the more I defended myself, the guiltier I'd look. Sister Carmichael, I said calmly, there are 2 sides to every story. I'd appreciate it if you'd remember that before you judge me. She just pursed her lips and walked away. Pastor Reynolds called me into his office the following week. He was a good man, had married Leon and me 30 years ago, had baptized all our children. He sat behind his desk, looking uncomfortable. Sister Vivian, I've been hearing some troubling things. I imagine you have. Brother Leon is in pain. He says you've turned your back on your marriage, that you're putting money before your covenant with God. I looked at this man who'd counseled me through my mama's death, who'd prayed with me when Dante was sick as a baby, who'd celebrated every milestone with our family. And I realized Leon had gotten to him too. Pastor, did Leon tell you about the affair? Pastor Reynolds blinked. Affair? Did he tell you he's been seeing another woman for months? Did he tell you he waited until after my inheritance to file for divorce so he could take half? Did he tell you any of that? He mentioned there was another person, but he said it started after your marriage was already broken, after you became distant. I laughed. Actually laughed. It was either that or cry. Pastor Reynolds, with all due respect, you're being played. Leon is lying to you, just like he's lying to everyone. I'm not going to defend myself anymore. Believe what you want to believe. I walked out of that office with my head high, but inside, I was breaking. My church, my community, the people I'd served alongside for decades, they were all choosing Leon, the charming, heartbroken husband whose mean wife was keeping money from him. Geneva found me crying in my car in the church parking lot. "Oh, baby," she said, sliding into the passenger seat. I heard what Carmichael said, and I heard about Pastor Reynolds' meeting. I can't believe this, Geneva. I can't believe they're all falling for his lies. People believe what they want to believe, and Leon's putting on a good show. I don't know if I can keep coming here. Don't you dare let him run you out of your church. You've got every right to be here. Hold your head up, Vivian. Truth always comes out. But I wasn't sure I believed that anymore. Things got worse before they got better. Leon started spreading rumors around the neighborhood, told people I'd stolen money from him, that I was cruel, that I'd kicked him out with nothing. Our neighbors, people I'd known for years, started giving me strange looks. Some stopped waving when they saw me. My garden, the one I'd tended for 15 years, got vandalized. Someone pulled up all my tomato plants, destroyed my rose bushes. I couldn't prove it was Leon, but I knew. Then came the financial attack. Marshall called me on a Tuesday morning. Vivian, Leon's lawyer is claiming you hid marital assets. They're requesting a full forensic accounting of all your finances going back 10 years. Can they do that? They can try. It's going to be expensive and time-consuming, but we'll fight it. The good news is we have documentation for everything. The bad news is this is going to drag on for a while. How long? Could be months, maybe longer if they keep filing motions. I felt tired. So tired. At 62, I should have been planning retirement, maybe traveling, enjoying my grandchildren. Instead, I was fighting my husband of 30 years in court while my own community turned against me. But I wasn't alone. Nicole was there. Geneva was there. And slowly, other allies started appearing. Sister Josephine, an older woman from church who'd been watching everything quietly, called me one evening. Vivian, I know what's happening. I've been around long enough to recognize a con when I see one. Your husband is running a game on everyone, and I'm not falling for it. Thank you, I whispered, tears running down my face. You don't know what it means to hear someone say that. There are others too. We see what he's doing. We're praying for you, baby. And when the time is right, we're going to make sure the truth comes out. The next Sunday, I walked into church with my head high. Leon was there in his usual spot, looking pitiful. People whispered, but Sister Josephine, Sister Adelaide, and 3 other church mothers sat in the pew right next to me. They didn't say anything. They just sat there, a wall of support in their church hats and their best dresses. Leon saw it. I watched his face change, saw the calculation in his eyes. He was losing control of the narrative. That's when things got dangerous. I came home from grocery shopping one afternoon to find my front door unlocked. I always locked it. Always. I stood on the porch, my heart pounding, wondering if I should call the police. Then I heard noise inside. Someone was in my house. I pulled out my phone, ready to dial 911, when Leon walked out the front door carrying a box. "What are you doing?" I demanded. "Getting my things. I have a right to my property." "You don't live here anymore." "You can't just break in." "I didn't break in. I used my key." "I changed the locks." He smiled, that same charming smile that had fooled me for 3 decades. "Did you? Must have missed the back door." He walked past me, put the box in his truck, and drove away. I went inside, my hands shaking. The box he'd taken was full of photo albums. Our wedding pictures, pictures of the kids growing up, family memories that belonged to both of us, sure, but taking them felt like another violation. I called Marshall immediately. "He broke into my house." "Did he take anything valuable?" "Photo albums. And Marshall, I don't know what else he might have taken. I need to go through everything. File a police report. Document everything. And Vivian, I think you should consider getting a restraining order." "A restraining order? Against my own husband?" "Ex-husband soon. And yes, his behavior is escalating. He's not getting what he wants through legal channels, so he's getting desperate. Desperate people do dangerous things." I didn't want to believe Leon would hurt me, but I didn't want to believe a lot of things that had turned out to be true. That night, I went through my whole house. Leon had gone through my dresser drawers, my closet, my office. He'd taken documents, old tax returns, anything he thought might help his case. He'd even taken my mama's jewelry box. Not the jewelry, thank God, because I'd moved that to a safe deposit box weeks ago. But the box itself, handmade by my grandfather, an antique worth thousands. I sat on my bedroom floor surrounded by the mess he'd made, and I realized something. This wasn't about money anymore. This was about power. Leon couldn't control me anymore, couldn't manipulate me, couldn't take what he thought was his. So he was trying to destroy me. But I was stronger than he thought. I filed the police report. I got the restraining order. And I called a locksmith to change every single lock in the house, including the back door. Then I did something I'd been putting off. I called Keisha and Dante and told them they needed to come over. It was time for the truth. All of it. They showed up on a Saturday morning. Keisha looked tired, caught in the middle. Dante looked defensive, arms crossed. Nicole was already there, sitting next to me on the couch. I'd prepared for this. I had printouts of the phone records showing Leon's hundreds of calls to his girlfriend. I had the timeline of when the inheritance came through and when Leon filed for divorce. I had copies of the trust documents showing how I'd legally protected my money. I had photos of my vandalized garden, the police report from the break-in, everything. "I want you to see this," I said. "All of it. And then you can decide what you believe." I laid it all out. Every piece of evidence. Every lie Leon had told. Every manipulation. Keisha cried as she looked through the phone records. Dante's face got harder and harder as he read the timeline. When I showed them the photos of what Leon had done to my garden, to my house, Dante's hands clenched into fists. "He told us you kicked him out," Dante said quietly. "He said you changed the locks and wouldn't let him get his things. I changed the locks after he broke in and ransacked my house. He said you were keeping all the money, that you wouldn't even help him with rent. He left me. He chose to leave. And the money he wants is mine, my inheritance from my aunt. It was never his." Keisha looked up at me, her eyes red. "The woman. Do you know who she is?" "No, and I don't want to know." "She's 28 years old," Nicole said quietly. "I found her Instagram. Her name is Shanice. She works at the gym where Daddy goes." 28. Leon was 65 years old, and he was dating a woman young enough to be his granddaughter. Dante stood up and walked to the window. His shoulders were shaking. When he turned around, his face was wet with tears. "I defended him," Dante said. "I called you cold. I told Keisha you were being greedy, and all this time he was lying. He was using us to get to you." "Baby, he's your father. You're allowed to love him and be disappointed in him at the same time. How can you be so calm about this?" "Because being angry won't change anything. It'll just make me bitter, and I refuse to let your father steal my peace along with everything else he tried to take." We talked for hours. I answered every question, showed them every document. By the end, even Dante understood. "What do you need from us?" Keisha asked. "Just believe me. Just stand with me. That's all." They both hugged me, long, tight hugs that said more than words could. After they left, I felt lighter. My children knew the truth. They were on my side. Leon's manipulation had failed. But I should have known he wasn't done yet. The next Sunday, I walked into church to find Leon standing at the front with Pastor Reynolds. Half the congregation was already seated, and they all turned to look at me. "Sister Vivian," Pastor Reynolds said, his voice echoing through the sanctuary, "we need to talk to you about a serious matter. Brother Leon has made some allegations that need to be addressed publicly." My heart sank. Leon was going to try to humiliate me in front of my whole church. This was his final play. I walked down that aisle with every eye on me, and I had no idea what was about to happen next. I stood at the front of that church, looking at Leon's smug face, and I felt something shift inside me. I wasn't scared anymore. I wasn't ashamed. I was done. "What allegations?" I asked, my voice clear and steady. Leon stepped forward, playing to the crowd. "You've been telling our children lies about me, spreading rumors, trying to turn them against their own father. Is that so?" "Yes. You told them I was unfaithful, that I'm some kind of monster. When the truth is, our marriage fell apart because you became obsessed with money, with keeping everything for yourself." Murmurs rippled through the congregation. I saw Sister Carmichael nodding, saw other people whispering. Leon had set this up perfectly. Public humiliation, his final revenge. "Are you finished?" I asked. "I think the church deserves to know the truth about who you really are, Vivian." I looked at Pastor Reynolds. He looked uncomfortable but determined. He'd been convinced by Leon's performance, and now he was going to let this play out. "May I speak?" I asked. Pastor Reynolds nodded. "Of course, Sister Vivian." I turned to face the congregation. These were people I'd worshipped with for 25 years, people I'd prayed with, cried with, celebrated with, and Leon was betting that they'd choose his lies over my truth. "Leon says I'm obsessed with money. Let me tell you about that money. My Aunt Claudette worked as a nurse for 40 years. She saved and invested every penny. When she died, she left me $9 million. Not us. Me. It was my inheritance, left to me personally." More whispers. 3 months after I received that inheritance, Leon filed for divorce. He didn't file because I changed. He filed because he wanted half of my money. Money he had no legal right to. Money I protected with the help of a lawyer because I knew this was coming. "That's not true," Leon shouted. "You're lying." "Am I?" I pulled out my phone. Thank God for Nicole, who'd helped me prepare for this moment. "Leon, do you know Shanice Williams?" His face went pale. "Let me help you remember. She's 28 years old, works at Planet Fitness on Poplar Avenue. You've been calling her 60, 70 times a week for the past 6 months. Would you like me to show the phone records?" The church went completely silent. "You want to talk about truth? Let's talk about how you vandalized my garden, how you broke into my house and stole family photos, how you've been lying to everyone in this church, playing the victim, while you plan a future with a woman young enough to be your granddaughter." "Vivian," Pastor Reynolds started, but I wasn't finished. "I've given 30 years to this man. I cooked his meals, raised his children, supported every dream he never followed through on. And the minute I had something of my own, something that could give me security in my old age, he decided to leave me and take half. Not because he loved me, because he wanted my money." Sister Josephine stood up. Then Sister Adelaide. Then 5 more church mothers, forming a wall of support behind me. "She's telling the truth," Sister Josephine said, her voice ringing out. "I've been watching this man operate for months. He's a liar and a manipulator, and shame on us for believing him over a woman who's served this church faithfully for decades." Leon's face was red now, angry. "You don't know what you're talking about, old woman." "Old woman?" Sister Josephine laughed. "Baby, I'm 78 years old. I've seen every trick in the book. You're not even original." Then something happened that Leon didn't expect. The church doors opened, and in walked a young woman, pretty, wearing tight jeans and a crop top completely inappropriate for church. She looked around, confused. "Leon," she called out. "Baby, you said to meet you here at noon. I've been waiting in the parking lot." The entire congregation turned to stare. It was like watching a car crash in slow motion. Leon's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "Shanice, what are you doing here?" "You texted me. You said—" She stopped, looking at me, at the church mothers, at Pastor Reynolds. "Oh my God, is this your wife?" "Ex-wife," I said calmly. "Almost." Shanice looked at Leon, then at me, and I saw the moment she realized she'd been played too. "You told me you were divorced. You said it was final." "It's complicated," Leon stammered. "Complicated?" Shanice's voice rose. "You've been lying to me this whole time? I gave up my apartment to move in with you. You said we were building a future together." "We are, baby, just don't baby me." She turned to face the congregation. "Y'all need to know, this man has been telling me he's divorced for 6 months, that his ex-wife was cruel and kicked him out with nothing. He said once the divorce was final, we'd have plenty of money to start over, that we'd travel, buy a house, get married." She looked at me, tears running down her face. "I'm sorry, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." "I believe you," I said. And I did. Shanice was another victim of Leon's lies. Younger, more naive, but a victim nonetheless. Leon tried to salvage it. "This is all a misunderstanding. Shanice, let's talk about this outside." "No!" Pastor Reynolds' voice cut through the chaos. "Brother Leon, I think you need to leave. Now." "But Pastor, now! And don't come back until you're ready to be honest. With yourself, with God, with everyone you've hurt." I watched Leon walk out of that church, his head down, his lies exposed. Shanice left too, crying. The congregation sat in stunned silence. Sister Josephine came and put her arm around me. "You did good, baby. Real good." Pastor Reynolds approached me, looking ashamed. "Sister Vivian, I owe you an apology. I should have listened. I should have believed you." "Yes," I said simply. "You should have." "Can you forgive me?" I thought about it. Thought about all the hurt, all the betrayal. "Eventually, but not today." He nodded. He understood. That afternoon, my phone rang. It was Marshall. "You're not going to believe what just happened," he said. "Try me. I've had quite a day. Leon's lawyer just called. They want to settle. No more forensic accounting, no more motions. They're ready to accept the original division of marital assets with no claim to your inheritance." I sat down hard on my couch. What changed? I don't know, but something did. They sound desperate to close this case. I found out later what happened. Dante had called Leon after leaving my house that Saturday. He'd told Leon that he knew the truth, that Keisha knew, that they were done covering for him. And if Leon didn't stop attacking me, Dante would make sure everyone knew exactly what kind of man his father was. Dante had kept that conversation secret, but it had worked. Leon was beaten, and he knew it. The final divorce hearing was 3 weeks later. Leon showed up with a different lawyer, a tired-looking public defender he'd clearly gotten cheap. His expensive lawyer had dropped him once the retainer ran out and Leon couldn't pay anymore. We divided the marital assets. Leon got half the value of the house, his pension, half of our joint savings. It came to about $80,000. Not nothing, but not the millions he'd been counting on. My inheritance stayed exactly where it was. Untouchable. Protected. Mine. The judge signed the papers, and just like that, 30 years of marriage was over. I walked out of that courthouse into bright October sunshine. Geneva was waiting for me, along with Nicole. They'd both taken off work to be there. "How do you feel?" Nicole asked. "Free," I said. Really, truly free. We went to lunch at a soul food restaurant downtown. I ordered everything I wanted. Fried catfish, collard greens, mac and cheese, cornbread, sweet tea so cold it made my teeth hurt, and peach cobbler with vanilla ice cream for dessert. "What are you going to do now?" Geneva asked. "Live," I said. "I'm going to live." And I did. I sold the house. Too many memories, too much pain. I bought a smaller place, a beautiful townhouse near the river with big windows and a garden space. I filled it with new furniture, new memories, new joy. I joined a new church, one where nobody knew my story, where I could just be Vivian. I sang in the choir again, found my voice again. I took that trip to Charleston to see Aunt Claudette's properties. The lawyer, Patricia, helped me understand the investments, taught me how to manage them. I learned I had a gift for it, just like my aunt. The money wasn't just sitting there. It was growing. I started a foundation in Aunt Claudette's name. We gave scholarships to young women going into nursing just like she'd done. Helped single mothers with emergency expenses. Funded after-school programs in underserved neighborhoods. The money became a blessing, not just for me, but for hundreds of people. My relationship with Keisha and Dante healed slowly. It took time, took honest conversations, took forgiveness on both sides. But we got there. Nicole never wavered, and I was grateful for her strength. The grandchildren still came to visit. Tyler, my baseball star, brought his whole team to my new house for a cookout. I made hamburgers and hot dogs and my famous potato salad. And I watched those kids play in my backyard and I felt joy, pure, uncomplicated joy. Leon? I heard things through the grapevine. Shanice left him after the church incident. He was living in a small apartment on the east side, still working as an electrician, struggling to make ends meet. His brother had stopped lending him money. His mother, before she passed, had written him out of her will. Some people said I should feel sorry for him, that he was a sad, lonely old man who'd thrown away everything for greed. I didn't feel sorry for him, but I didn't feel angry either. I just felt nothing. He was a stranger now, someone I used to know. One Sunday, about a year after the divorce, I was at my new church when I saw him. Leon. He was sitting in the back row, head down, looking old and tired. Our eyes met across the sanctuary, and I saw something there. Regret, maybe? Or just the weight of his choices. I looked away, went back to singing my hymn. He wasn't my responsibility anymore. He wasn't my problem. He was just a man who'd made terrible choices and had to live with them. After service, he tried to approach me in the parking lot. "Vivian, can we talk?" "No, Leon, we can't. I just want to apologize for everything." "Okay, apology noted." "That's it? After 30 years, that's all you have to say to me?" I looked at him, really looked at him, saw the gray hair, the wrinkles, the sadness in his eyes, and I felt nothing but peace. "Leon, I've said everything I need to say. I've cried all the tears I'm going to cry. I've forgiven you, not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. But forgiveness doesn't mean I have to let you back into my life. It just means I'm free from you. I made a mistake. I threw away everything." "Yes, you did. And now you have to live with that." I got in my car and drove away. Didn't look back. Didn't cry. Just drove home to my townhouse where Geneva was waiting to have lunch, where Nicole was coming over later with the grandkids, where my life was full of real love and real joy. That night, I sat on my back porch with a glass of wine, watching the sunset over the Mississippi River. My phone rang. It was Marshall. "Just wanted to check in," he said. "Make sure you're doing okay." "I'm doing better than okay, Marshall. I'm happy." "That's good to hear. You know, in all my years practicing law, I've seen a lot of divorces. Most people come out of them bitter and broken. But you came out stronger. I had good help. You had good instincts. You protected yourself when it mattered. You stood up for yourself when everyone told you not to. That takes courage, Vivian." After we hung up, I thought about that. Courage. For so long, I'd thought being a good wife meant being soft, being accommodating, putting everyone else first. But real courage was protecting myself. Real courage was saying no. Real courage was walking away from people who didn't value me, even when they were family. A few months later, I was at the grocery store when I ran into Sister Carmichael. She looked embarrassed when she saw me. "Vivian, I owe you an apology." "Yes, you do." She blinked, surprised by my directness. "I was wrong to judge you, to believe Leon's lies. I should have known better." "Yes, you should have. But you chose the easy story over the true one. That's on you." "Can you forgive me?" "I already have. But our friendship? That's going to take time to rebuild, if it can be rebuilt at all." She nodded, tears in her eyes, and walked away. I wasn't being cruel. I was being honest. And honesty was something I'd learned to value more than being liked. At 63 years old, I was starting over. And you know what? It was glorious. I took a cruise to the Caribbean with Geneva. We danced to reggae music, ate amazing food, lay on beaches, and talked about everything and nothing. I went ziplining in Jamaica, parasailing in the Bahamas. Did things I'd never done when I was married because Leon always said we couldn't afford it, or he was too tired, or he'd rather do something else. I took a cooking class and learned to make French pastries. I joined a book club and read novels that made me laugh and cry. I started painting, something I'd always wanted to try but never had time for. I lived. Finally, after 6 decades on this earth, I was really living. One afternoon, Nicole came over with news. "Mama, I don't know if you want to hear this, but Daddy got married." My hand paused over the pot of greens I was stirring. "Married?" "Yeah, to some woman he met at church. She's 55, a widow. From what I hear, she doesn't have much money." I started laughing. Couldn't help it. "Mama?" "Baby, your father spent a year trying to get my money, lost everything in the process, and ended up married to someone in the same financial situation he would have been in if he'd just stayed with me in the first place. Except now he's older, lonelier, and has burned every bridge he had. That's not tragedy. That's poetry." Nicole laughed too. We stood in my kitchen, laughing together, and it felt good. "Do you think he's happy?" Nicole asked. "I don't know, and honestly, baby, I don't care. His happiness isn't my responsibility anymore." 6 months ago, I did something I never thought I'd do. I started dating. His name is Bernard. He's a retired school principal, 65 years old, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. We met at a community event, bonded over our love of old Motown music and good barbecue. He makes me laugh. He listens when I talk. He treats me like I'm precious. We take it slow. I'm not rushing into anything. But it's nice. Having someone to go to dinner with, to talk to share my life with. Someone who values me for who I am, not what I have. Bernard knows about Leon, about the divorce, about everything. I was honest from the start. "You're a survivor," he said when I told him. "That's beautiful. I'm just someone who refused to be a victim. That's what makes you a survivor." Last month, Tyler graduated high school. Keisha and Dante both came to the ceremony, and I sat between them, cheering when Tyler's name was called. Leon was there too, sitting on the other side with his new wife. We didn't speak, didn't acknowledge each other, and that was fine. After the ceremony, Tyler came up to me, grinning in his cap and gown. "Grandma, thank you for the scholarship fund. Because of you, I can go to college without loans. Baby, that's what the money is for, to help family, to build futures. Dad said I should ask you to help him too. That you're being selfish keeping all that money." I looked at Dante. He looked embarrassed. "Tyler, let me tell you something. Your grandfather made choices, bad choices, and those choices have consequences. My job isn't to rescue him from those consequences. My job is to take care of myself and help the people who matter. You matter. Your education matters. Him? He made his bed." Tyler nodded. "That's what I thought. I just wanted to hear you say it." Smart kid. Now here I am, 64 years old, divorced, happy. My inheritance is still growing, still protected, still doing good work in the world. My foundation has helped over 200 families. I have friends who value me, children who respect me, grandchildren who adore me, and a man who treats me like gold. Leon has his new wife, his small apartment, his regrets. People ask me if I'm bitter, if I'm angry, if I wish things had turned out differently. The truth? I'm grateful. Grateful that Leon showed his true colors before I wasted more years on him. Grateful that Aunt Claudette gave me the means to protect myself. Grateful for Marshall's wisdom, Geneva's friendship, Nicole's loyalty, and the strength I found in myself when I needed it most. I'm grateful that at 64 years old, I get a second chance at life. A chance to be happy on my own terms. A chance to wake up every morning and choose joy. That's the real revenge, you know. Not the money, not the legal victory, not watching Leon struggle. The real revenge is living well, is being happy, is refusing to let someone else's betrayal define my life. I think about Aunt Claudette sometimes, about how she lived modestly, saved wisely, and left me the tools to save myself. I wonder if she knew, if she somehow sensed that I would need that money to escape. I like to think she did. I like to think she was protecting me from beyond the grave. Last week I got a letter from Leon, handwritten, 6 pages long. He talked about regret, about mistakes, about how he wished he could go back and do things differently. He asked if there was any chance we could be friends. I read it once, then put it in the shredder. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. And that's okay. I'm not the woman I was 2 years ago. I'm not soft in the ways I used to be. I'm not accommodating to the point of self-destruction. I've learned to say no. I've learned to protect myself. I've learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away. And I've learned that it's never too late to start over, to find happiness, to choose yourself. So if you're reading this, if you're in a situation where someone is trying to use you, manipulate you, take from you what's yours, let me tell you something. Protect yourself. Get good legal advice. Document everything. Trust your instincts. And don't let anyone make you feel guilty for valuing yourself. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to be treated with respect. You deserve to keep what's yours. And if you have to fight for it, fight. Fight hard. Because on the other side of that fight is freedom. And let me tell you, freedom is sweet. That's all for today's story. If this touched your heart, please subscribe and share your own experiences below. We're all in this together.